Patrick Cook here. So, hey, welcome to another project time-lapse. This is number 6. I don't really have a project objective in this particular case. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw 4 formulas at it in alternate mode. And you can see here that just 4 formulas, I picked them pretty much at random. I get a very dense environment in terms of the Mandelbulb scene. Not very attractive. It's not going to make a very interesting animation, fly through or anything like that. So really, the Mandelbulb3D fractal generator is just it's something you just have to kind of experiment with. Add formulas, take formulas away, try them in different hybrid modes, alternate, interpolate, decombinate. All right, within the rules. Put a formula in, take a formula out, and modify the properties and modify the iteration count, and just see what you get. That really is a very good way to go about creating Mandelbulb projects. Just try stuff, see what you get. And that's what I'm doing here. All right. Now, so I have 4 formulas that I've thrown into it. I'm navigating around. I'm using the navigator primarily to give me an easy way to modify the properties. I can use the sliders. And if I don't like something, I can do a reset value, and I can put the property value back immediately. And I can also immediately see the result of modifying the properties. So that's why I'm using the navigator. I'm not using the navigator at the moment to move through the scene or animate through the scene. I'm just using it as a convenient way to be able to modify the formula properties and see what I get. I can't remove formulas or add formulas with the navigator, but I can certainly modify the formula properties and some other values related to the formula. Now, I'm still looking for an interesting Mandelbulb scene. I still have a scene that is much too dense. It's just too dense. It's not a good animation environment. I'm going to be colliding with everything all the time. And you collide, you clip. All right, so I'll just keep going. All right, now something is interesting is starting to develop here. That's interesting. Okay, almost looks like a spaceship. Like a big factory environment. I could fly through that pretty easy. Oh, here's something now. We got some interesting holes, some portals that you can animate into and out of. Keep going. Just keep the discovery going. Try things. And so again, I'm still looking for that interesting animation environment. All right, there's a lot of cool stuff going by here, but I'm thinking animation. Where can I fly through that? Do I have enough spaces to be able to fly the camera through? Is there enough variation in the scene in general? Is the Mandelbulb object large enough to provide a good flight path? All right, now that's too dense. It's just too much stuff in there. All right, I think I'm on to something now. I did my first save of the project. I haven't actually gotten to any of the animation, the keyframing yet. I'm still looking for an interesting Mandelbulb environment. This almost looks like a kind of maybe a city or something, huh? Okay, interesting. Well, that's the beautiful thing about the Mandelbulb 3D software, is you can take, what do we have, 4 formulas here? And we can find a tremendous number of variations in the, the Mandelbulb scene or the Mandelbulb object. All right. And we could just keep going. We could be at this for hours, finding just the right scene. So now I'm just kind of using the field of view settings and the camera positioning. I'm thinking, well, maybe I got an interesting scene here that might be interesting to kind of fly through. All right, you got a whole bunch of nooks and crannies there, a lot of interesting detail. The scene changes. All right, now, well, that's interesting. I'm looking around. What do I got? I'm using the left, the look left, the look right, move forward, up and down, sliding. I'm using all of those navigation controls to explore the structure that I have, and I'm getting some ideas as to how I could go about animating through this particular scene. Now, I like the way that the Mandelbulb scene varies. It changes. I like this. All right, so I'm going to do a quick save there. Keep going. I'm going to keep experimenting. The thing I found about creating Mandelbulb graphics is that you get to a point where you got something you like, and you kind of stop experimenting and you see whether or not you can do something with it. Because you could just keep going and modify and just keep changing the thing forever. It's all very interesting, but usually you want to have a project kind of have a termination point. With the Mandelbulb fractal generator, you could really get yourself in a position where you never are satisfied enough to be able to finish this particular project, because you keep finding new interesting stuff. All right, but what I'm doing here is I'm still working on what kind of a Mandelbulb scene can I do that would make for an interesting animation, or a fly through, or a fly about, or a fly around. All right, so a little bit of quality tweaking here. I'm looking for the best DE stop for this particular Mandelbulb object. I think I probably have found something that is worth exploring in terms of animation. All right, but I'm not really entirely certain what I have. I'm looking around and throwing it up on the main screen so that I can get a good visual. I'm interested in what the colors look like, what the ambient shadows look like, the lighting. All right, and I'm kind of moving my camera around to find a good position. Yeah, so this is looking pretty good. Not really certain whether or not. Well, I think that the colors are a little bland. The lighting, I think the lighting the lighting angle is really creating kind of a lot of the whole thing. It just seems to be too dark. So I'm going to use some coloring to see if I can kind of brighten it up, and see whether or not I can use colors to to install more variety. Now look, the object, the Mandelbulb object itself, is very interesting. There's a lot of geometric shapes. There's some almost organic looking type shapes that are all kind of mixed in. It's a very interesting scene, but I want the coloring to make it even more interesting if that's possible. I don't know if it is or not. The only way you could really find out is to experiment. All right. Now, I started with the color modifications here just a minute or two ago because I didn't like the blandness, the flatness. And so now I've got some yellows and greens and some oranges in there. Much more interesting, I think. Okay. Well, I don't know. Yeah. So these colors are just too garish. They're not realistic. So I just went down and I just tried some color presets. I just took all the colors out. Now, what I often do is I will use red on a color band to see if I could determine where the color is on the z-axis. So here I'm just kind of trying to get some muted colors. I don't want them too loud. Okay, there's some red mixed in here, kind of livens it up a little bit. Not really sure if this is what I like. Yeah, look around a little bit. I just, on the navigator, I just kind of changed the look. I just slid over to the right just to kind of get something else in the scene. Work with the colors a little bit more, the ambient shadows, see if I can try to get this thing livened up a little bit. The colors are too muted. It's interesting, but whether or not it's something I want to fly through, I want to take the time to animate through, I'm not really sure whether or not this is a good color palette for an animation. Okay, but I'm still looking. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, not only do you need to experiment with the Mandelbulb object itself, but you also need to experiment with lighting, experiment with coloring, and experiment, of course, with the camera location. And so all of those things play into your final animation project. In this case, it's an animation. When you're dealing with an animation, there's more at stake. Because now you're moving the camera, and when you move the camera, now the lighting is different in the new camera position, or the colors, because coloring in the Mandelbulb object tend to be related to the z-axis. The z-axis meaning forward and back from your perspective or the camera's perspective. So now you move your camera around in an animation and your colors are thrown off. I mean, check this out. All right. So experimentation when in an animation is quite important to see whether or not only does your Mandelbulb object hold up as you move the camera, but does your lighting and your coloring, do those hold up? All right, or do they cycle all over the place, or do your shadows walk across the scene, or you look at one angle and you've got a white background, and the next angle you're looking at, all of a sudden the background's black again. You see, so it gets a little tricky when it comes to an animation. Now, in this particular case, I have created a very, very dense Mandelbulb scene, and I've created a much bigger problem for myself in terms of an animation because I need to move through this. And as I move through this, I need to be paying attention to the lighting and the coloring and also the quality, of course. The quality is going to change as you move through. So this is one of those situations where I just threw 4 formulas at it at random, all right, and I'm spending this entire project trying to determine whether or not I can make this Mandelbulb scene work in terms of an animation. I could probably take this Mandelbulb scene and move my camera around using the navigator. I could find an interesting single still location and do something really interesting with that, and render out one image, which could be quite interesting. But when you're trying to animate through a scene, you've got all kinds of variables that come into play that may ruin your animation. I mean, you could be at one location and then look left, and all of a sudden the whole thing is thrown off and it doesn't look good. You see how the in the middle here, you see how that background is just way overloaded. That's the dynamic fog. The dynamic fog is not playing nicely with this particular animation. So this is a tough project. This is a tough one. Now, and I did this to myself because I literally just threw 4 formulas at it in alternate hybrid mode. And I said, well, what can I do with this? I may not be able to do anything with this. This may be a failed project. It wouldn't be the first project I've thrown away after spending 45 minutes, an hour, and then you just throw it away because you couldn't make it work. Well, I should say, you couldn't make it work to your level of satisfaction. If you're only interested in just pumping out animations and you don't really care how they look, well, you could pump all kinds of animations using the Mandelbulb3D software application. But if you don't like what you got, or if the colors don't hold up, or the colors wander, or the lighting changes in a distracting way as you move through the scene, then do you want to publish something like that? In this particular case, with these project time lapses, we're not necessarily trying to publish anything. We're learning. We're learning together. So my Mandelbulb scene is kind of interesting. I modified the formula properties a little bit. The colors are interesting. I got a nice variety of colors, good contrast. Greens in there. I've got some maroons. I got some pinks. I got some yellows. All right. So a very dense, very high detailed Mandelbulb scene. All right. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not I can animate through this and produce something of interest. Well, I just threw a bunch of keyframes away. I didn't like them. I just didn't like them and threw them away. All right. I got too much red in here. Too much red. I got to soften this red. Let's go for that's better. That's better. You don't want colors that just reach out and just strain the eye of your viewers, unless that's what you're going for. Because the garish colors become distracting. What I want is an animation. I don't want any particular part of the scene to overwhelm or outdo the animation movement itself. That's why garish colors like that red that I just had in there doesn't really work. It steals the scene. It steals the show. and I want the animation to be the show, not some color that jabs at the viewer's eyeballs. So I'm still looking for the perfect location for my animation, for my keyframes. I had some keyframes a few minutes ago. I threw them all away because they just didn't work out. All right, so I'm looking for a good place to start my animation. Okay. Modify the colors a little bit. All right, kind of. That's coming out pretty good, huh? Okay, nice and light. I don't want anything too bright, too harsh. And okay, good. Kind of soften it up. Hunt around, find a color combination that works. Experiment. Okay, good. Kind of muted. Not bad, not bad. Muted colors. Muted colors is not necessarily a bad thing because you still have your lighting intensity. You have your ambient light intensity that you can work with. You've got the shadows that you can work with. You don't have to have intense colors. You can dial up the ambient light or the primary light source intensity. All right, looking for the next keyframe, and all I'm doing here is I'm just doing sliding. I'm sliding left, up. I'm not looking. I'm not moving forward. I'm just doing a slide. It's almost like I'm just kind of moving back and forth without moving forward or reverse, and without looking and without rotating. I just want to do kind of almost a flyby. You could think of it as a flyby. Okay. Okay. All right. That's not too bad. Not too bad. All right. So I've got an interesting. I think I've got an interesting flyby. All right. Just using the sliders. Let's render this thing out and let's see what we get. All right, so I just cut to the chase there, and I cut the film, and for with this this preview finally developed. I'm not really sure if I like those Mandelbulb objects that just flew by. Interesting. Now I'm just doing sliding. I'm just doing a slide. I'm doing a slide left and a slide up and a down. All right. Now I've got these close objects that are in the scene. They don't appear to actually be clipping, but they're coming into the camera very quickly and flying through. It does give it a sense of extreme depth. This may not necessarily be a bad thing. All right, but that was just a preview. Let's render this thing out in full glory, and let's see what kind of final animation we get full size. All right, here's the full size animation, 1920 by 1080. All right, so this is high definition. All right, nice smooth flyby. You notice I'm not going in or out. I'm not rotating the camera. I don't like the way that the background is. Oh, there's the objects that are right in front of it. That's an interesting effect. I think that they're too fast. I don't like the way that the background paints in and out, paints from black and blue. That can be improved. A little bit of loss of some quality along the way. All in all, it's pretty good. The depth is quite interesting. The lighting is stationary. Okay, I think that's a good learning experience. Thanks for joining me. I learned. I hope you did too.